If you would turn your attention to the 90th division of the book of Psalms. This is a psalm of Moses, who is speaking about the eternality of God and the brevity of life of man. Beginning with verse 10, notice, the days of our lives are 70 years, and if by reason of strength they are 80, yet their boast is only labor and sorrow. For it is soon cut off, and we fly away. Who knows the power of your anger? For as the fear of you, so is your wrath. So teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. And I'm speaking today simply from the subject, maximize your days. Maximize your days. Maximize your days. You don't realize the brevity of life, how quickly life passes by until you wake up one day and you realize that you're looking at somebody who is older than you've ever seen in the mirror before. And then you wonder, you ask yourself the question, where did the time go? Once you've gotten out of school and you go back for your 5-year reunion, your 10-year reunion, your 15-year reunion, your 20-year reunion, your 25th, we got some folks that's been out of high school now, and it sounds like it was ancient history. Because you know, being in the 2000s now, when they said that they graduated back in the 1900s. And then you wonder, where did the time go? Because you don't feel yourself aging. You don't feel yourself getting older. And it's not until you go back and sometimes see people that graduated with you and see their condition that it reminds you of this aging process. So it's the reminder to maximize your days, because teach us, Lord, to number our days so that we might attain a heart of wisdom and apply wisdom to our hearts. The King James Version just says, teach us to number our days so that we might apply our hearts unto wisdom. Then the contemporary English version of verse 12 says, teach us to use wisely all the time we have. Teach us to use wisely all the time we have. When you realize that you don't have eternity on the earth, you start thinking about using your time better. And so here is Moses, whose life was divided into 3 different epochs. The first 40 years he spent in Pharaoh's house, being raised as Pharaoh's daughter, the child of Pharaoh's daughter. And here, as Moses growing up in Pharaoh's house, he's realizing that I'm a part of Egypt. I'm a part of world systems. Egypt is a type of the world. And most people, young folks, they spend the first period of their life living in the reality of the world. And then they go through this 40 years where he spent the next 40 years in the wilderness on the backside of the mountain, where for 40 years Moses didn't hear one peep out of God. In 40 years, God didn't talk to him. What do you do when you're walking with God for 40 years of your life and you don't hear a word from God? He's on the backside of the desert. He's trying to find himself. He's trying to galvanize God's purpose. He's trying to discern, which way do I go? What should I be doing with my life? Now I'm away from the kind of background and heritage that I was raised under. Who am I, God? Who are you, God? He's coming into this awareness period, and then he spends the next 40 years negotiating the release of the children of Israel out of Egypt, and then wandering in the wilderness until the time that he died. And so he's got these 3 different epochs of being in Egypt, being in the wilderness, searching for God, until he meets this God in a burning bush. And God speaks to him and then sets him on a path of mission for the next 40 years of his life. And Moses lived to be 120 years old. The Bible says that when he was 120, that his natural force was not abated, that he had the strength of a man 40 years old. Now, I don't know about you, but you ought to claim some of that. Because you know that you don't want to just get old and be decrepit. He was 120 years old, and the Bible said that he had the vigor, the energy, the vitality, the sensibleness, the discernment, the readiness and presence of mind of a man 40 years old. And you ought to say, God, if you did it for Moses, and Moses killed a man, if you did it for Moses, Moses has some attitude issues. If you did it for Moses, and Moses did handle some things in the flesh. If you did it for Moses, you are no respecter of person. God, help me to feel good, because I don't want to be here till 120 if I don't even know who I am, what my name is. You got to come in the morning and tell me what day of the week it is. And if you got to bring me here and carry me there, let me just go on, Jesus, with you. I just rather wake up dead. When he's in this different place in life, he's in a different place in life. He's in a different place, and he's saying, God, this is a prayer. This is a prayer of Moses. And Moses is praying to God. He says, God, oh God, help me. Teach us, oh Lord, to number our days so we can apply our hearts to wisdom, so we will maximize our time, so we'll do the right thing. Because when you realize that you're not going to live forever, you begin to treat life and time differently. Because here's the question. If you knew that you only had 6 months to live, what would you do? If somebody told you you're in stage 4 of cancer, you've got 6 months to live, what would you do? And whatever would become your priority for your last 6 months of life are the things that you ought to be working on right now so that you don't die with them undone. You ought to start working on it right now. I mean, whatever you would do. I mean, if you'd say that I'll travel, I'll take a trip, and if you've never been anywhere, you ought to save up your little money and try to take your trip. Don't save it up for a rainy day, because it would be a mess if you saved it all up and died before you could get there. Whatever you would do in the last 6 months of your life, you ought to begin to set it as a priority right now. Because when you understand that you have limited time, your priorities change. Your priorities change. When you realize, I don't have but much time, your priorities change. So whenever you're wondering, what should I do first? Act as though you only have 6 months left, 3 months left, 1 month left. That will help you to put in perspective what should be a priority in your life. Because prioritization increases productivity. Prioritization increases productivity. Also, prioritization increases possibility. When you begin to prioritize something in your life, you increase the possibility of that thing happening. If it's playing sports and becoming really good in sports, or in acting, or in music, whatever you give priority to, you're going to get better at it, because you make time for it each day. You begin to make time for that thing each day. And listen, when you're trying to build something in your life, the bridge from reality, to reality from a dream, the bridge from dream to reality is called action. It's a bridge. The bridge from a dream to reality, it is called action. The bridge from knowledge to skill is called practice. Practice. The bridge from knowledge to skill is called practice. And the bridge from skill to mastery is called time. And whatever it is that you want to master in your life, give it time. Give it time. You know, experts tell us that if you spend 10,000 hours doing something, you'll become an expert in that. Whatever it is, you study it for 10,000 hours, you practice it for 10,000 hours, you'll become an expert. That's the bridge between skill and mastery. It is called time. Time. Teach us, O Lord, to number our days. Help us to realize, God, we're not going to live forever on this earth, so that we start making the time that we have left count. So you don't waste time in frivolous stuff, wasting hours. Did you know that they say that you spend 6 months of your life stopped at a traffic light? That's why if it's ever yellow, I speed up and go through it. They said that you will spend 2 years of your life waiting in line, waiting to be seated in a restaurant, waiting in line at the grocery store, waiting in line at Walmart and Target, where they got 21 registers and only 2 people at the register. And the line is backed up all down in the aisle. I've been dogging, if I'm going to spend 2 years of my life standing in a line somewhere, I'll order online first. But you will be surprised the different activities that we do where our life is just zipping away little by little. Little by little, you just wake up and then you start wondering, where did the time go? Tony Schwartz said this. He said, force yourself to prioritize so that you know that you will finish at least one critical task during the period of the day when you have the most energy and the fewest distractions. Whatever you need to get done, do that so that you can finish at least one critical task during the period when you have the most energy and the least distraction. That's the power of prioritization in your life. What do you need to get done when you have good energy and fewer distractions? That's why it's so productive for you to work early in the morning. And some people say, well, I'm not a morning person. Then do it late at night. But make sure it's a time where you are alert. Where you are alert. Give it your best alertness, your best energy, and the time when you'll have the least amount of distraction. You see, your judgment in life and your judgment about life oftentimes comes based on experience. You don't really understand a boss until you become a boss. No, really. And you know, that's why when you have been an employee, you understand how to treat employees when you get to a management position, because you know how you felt. You know that sometimes, you know, you deal with certain issues. Experience changes your perspective of life, and it changes your judgment. And here's the deal. Good judgment comes from experience. Anytime you find people with good judgment, it comes from experience. Now here's the deal. Experience comes from bad judgment. You make bad judgment and people can tell you, baby, child, you don't want no man like that. Anybody who tells you that, they're speaking from experience. When somebody said, honey, you better let him go. Because they know that kind. They've been with that kind before. They know the kind. Bad experiences teach you good judgment. Remember, you win some and you learn some. You never lose unless you fail to learn. We learn our greatest wisdom from our biggest mistakes and the poorest judgment. Because once you've had poor judgment with a certain type, that type will never be able to fool you again. When you see them, it's like, I know your kind. I know your kind. I know your gold-digging kind. I know your little use them and use them. I know your little wham-bam, thank you, ma'am kind. You fooled me once, shame on you, but you fooled me twice? You know why? It is because that experience of your poor judgment then gives you good judgment. Gives you good judgment. So that's how you grow and you mature over life. But always question your current state. Always question where you are in life right now. Take time to reflect, to evaluate, where am I? What am I doing with my life right now? What am I doing with my time? And don't merely ask whether you can improve. Here's the question to ask, how can I improve? It's not a matter of whether you can improve. The room for improvement is the biggest room in the world. It's the room for improvement. I don't care how long you've been doing something, you can always improve it. You can always make it better. 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 And anything that is an improvement has to be easier, or it's not an improvement. Don't give me something and tell me this is improvement, and then I got 12 steps when I was doing 3 steps. That's not an improvement. Improvement, if it's better, it's got to be easier, easier, easier. Easier. You know, they had a problem when they first came out, the credit cards with the chip in it. You had to push that thing in, but you know, I was used to swiping. Swiping was faster. And if you go to another system that takes longer, that's not better. Because better is always easier. When somebody comes up with something that is better, it's normally easier. It's normally easier for you. So frequently ask yourself the question, is what I'm doing right now aligned with my life's calling? You have to evaluate the events of your daily life by asking, is what I am doing right now aligned with my life's calling? I mean, where I'm going. You know, if you got some eyes on a political position later on down the road, and you run around with everybody, ask yourself the question, is what I'm doing right now? Is what I'm doing right now aligned with my life's calling? Just ask yourself the question. Is what I'm doing adding value and preparing me for where I want to go in life? Is what I'm doing with my money right now preparing me for where I want to be financially 25 years down the road? You have to ask yourself the question, is what I'm doing with the activity of my body preparing me, aligning me with the shape that I want to be in when I reach this age? Because you know, back in the old days, 40 used to be real old, 40. Anybody know anything about 40? You know why? Because we used to see people that were 40 and they acted like they were 80. Because at 40, their arthritis had already kicked in. They already had high blood pressure, high cholesterol. They were old at 40 years old. At 40, they were old. And see now, my goodness, 40, these people act like they're teenagers, like they act like 40 is the new 20. They're still in the club at 40. They bumping and grinding with their children in 40 years old. But see, if you take care of yourself better, you do, I mean, really, honestly, but you know, the age where you are now, anybody who's 50 is the new 40. Victor Hugo said that 40 is the old age of youth and 50 is the youth of old age. So you have to think about it and ask yourself, the activities that I'm doing right now, is it aligning where I want to be? Because you know, you see some people at 65, they look old, real old. And then there's some, look at that. All right now, And see, she's been dancing and getting her praise on for years, preparing herself for this day. You know what I'm saying? You got to live, you know, you got to say, listen, if I'm going to be here, I want to be here where I can enjoy myself, where I can move, and I've got my mental faculties, where joy is ringing in me. Well, if they ask me, you ready to go? Yeah, I'm ready to go. Just tell me when and where, and I'm there. I mean, I don't know whether you all saw Pastor Render, you know, on New Year's Eve. Oh my goodness. I'm like, you're talking about energy? My goodness, you know, you couldn't do that in your 60s. No, not back in the day. I'm like, this girl was channeling a teenager spirit. My goodness, I'm just telling you. So it depends on where you are. It depends on where you are that you have to, what you're doing right now prepares you for where you're going and how you want to be. See, there's an internal perspective of life, and that's how you see things to you. Narcissistic people only look at life through the internal view. But life is more than an internal view. There's also an external view. How my actions affect other people, how I fit into the social norms of the world that's around me, how I conform to the norms of the tribe. That's an external view. And then there is an eternal view. How does this fit into the scheme of things from the perspective of the kingdom of God? God is eternal. Time does not affect him. And he will always win at the waiting game because God is an eternal God. So there is an eternal perspective, an internal perspective, an external perspective, but also an eternal perspective. And it is good to look at things oftentimes from a temporal perspective, where things are temporary. You know why? Because all temptation is temporary. Just think about that for a moment. Whatever you're tempted to do, it's temporary. If you can breathe deeply and put your mind in another place, the temptation will pass. I don't care whether you're struggling with drugs, alcohol, sex, pornography, whatever. The temptation to do it is temporary. The temptation to do it, the temptation for fried chicken and pound cake is temporary. You on a diet? I mean, if you can just hold yourself and get you an apple and some carrot sticks and celery sticks. It's not exactly like the crunch of biting into fried chicken, you know. But the point of the matter is that temptation is temporary. Temptation is temporary. That means it will pass. It will not last. It will pass. All of your temptation will pass. The temptation to get with somebody sexually, it will pass. If you occupy your mind, occupy till I come, occupy till I come. The temptation is temporary. It will pass. It will pass. The temptation for the cigarette, it will pass. If you can find a way to occupy your mind, the temptation will pass. It's temporary. And think about this. The temporal perspective says that it asks this question: is what I'm arguing about right now really worth my losing my peace and my joy over? Because you'll have an argument with your spouse because they move your comb, your brush. Or you couldn't find the butter in the refrigerator. And like, now, where do you put the butter? Now, you know I like butter on my bread. And you got a whole argument because they move your favorite cup. And just ask yourself, would this matter to me 1 year from today? Would this matter 1 year from today? Would this matter 5 years from today? And if it's not going to matter a year from now, and if it's not going to matter 5 years from now, it's temporal. And that means it is not worth your losing your peace of mind and losing your joy and nearly losing your salvation, because next year at this time, you're not even going to remember what you were arguing about today. Because this shirt wasn't dirty, and they had taken your shirt and put it over the dirty clothes because you're going to wear it again. You do realize men and women are totally different. A woman wakes up in the morning and she says, I have nothing to wear. The man says, I have nothing to wear. But when a woman says, I have nothing to wear, she means I don't have anything new to wear. But when a brother says, I don't have anything to wear, he means I ain't got nothing clean to wear. But it's temporal. It is temporal. Just realize that whatever I'm dealing with right now, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. There's somebody that's trying to damage your reputation. Somebody's trying to kill your spirit. Somebody that's trying to beat you out of the promotion. But this too shall pass. And you know, whatever it is, that if you might have been denied from a loan approval or whatever it is, this too shall pass. Don't let the current condition of where you are become an eternal thing in your life. A problem is that which can be solved. A fact of life is that which must be accepted. If you can solve it, it's not a problem. It's a fact of, it is a problem if you can solve it. But problems are there to be solved. You grow, you develop, and you solve the problem and you move on. So you ask yourself, I'm looking through this as a temporal thing. It's because every problem is temporal. No problem lasts forever. No problem lasts forever. No problem lasts forever. You got a problem with a son or daughter? No problem lasts forever, because one day they're going to get out of your house. No problem lasts forever. No problem lasts forever. It might be a problem, but if you got a back that's been hurting for a number of years, a leg that's been giving you some trouble, you learn to live with it. It no longer stops you. You got to learn how to hurt and keep on moving. That, you know, I realize that there's some stuff that's trying to set me back in life right now, but I'm going to feel the pain, but I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to feel the pain, and I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to feel the pain, and just because you're there doesn't mean that you're not hurting, but it means that I've got a purpose that is bigger than my pain. And when you got a purpose that is bigger than your pain, your purpose will empower you. Something on the inside of you will say, Lord, I don't know whether I'm going to make it or not, but I'm going to go in faith today. I'm going to do this thing. Jesus, I got to go. I got to go. Lord Jesus, come on with me. And God, if he doesn't heal you right in that moment, he will come into your pain and give you the power to press. He'll give you pressing. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Where you had to press and you were hurting. You were going through. It was difficult. It was not easy. You were not feeling like you were blessed and highly favored of the Lord, but you kept on going anyhow. You kept on praying. You kept on believing. You were sleepy. You didn't feel like it, but you did it anyhow. That's what I'm talking about. When the pressure on the inside is greater than the pressure on the outside, you're not going to let what's hurting exteriorly, what's hurting in your legs and your hips and in your stomach and in your back, stop you when you are driven by a power of God that says you got to do this if you're going to have joy unspeakable and full of glory. There's something that when this thing possesses you, you do it because God is drawing you by the Spirit on the inside. You see, the spirit of a man can sustain you in your infirmity when you walk with the strength on the inside that even though I'm hurting, I'm still moving, I'm still going. Because I understand, God, I can't let a temporary thing stop me from a purpose that is eternal.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Join us again next time for Power for Living, where revelation is power. Power for living.